You're listening to a Weeby Geeks Network podcast.
It's Pro Wrestling Cast.
Shut up! My time has come, and that's the bottom line.
With your hosts, Aljon and Steven.
I've been the best ever since day one when I walked into this company.
It's Pro Wrestling Cast, a weekly look into the world of professional wrestling.
I'm gonna reach out right now. I want you at home to know my hand is touching your hand.
Follow us on Facebook at Pro Wrestling Cast and on Twitter at PWrestlingCast.
I always try to do what's best for business.
Have a question or just want to comment? Leave us a voicemail at 615-9339-PWC. That's 615-9339-792.
Or how about a Y2J telling you to shut the hell up?
And now, Pro Wrestling Cast.
Hulk Hogan, we're going for you.
Say something. Go ahead and say it.
No, I wasn't going to say anything. You do a big, long show intro. I'm not going to screw that up.
No, it's fine. I don't care.
Welcome to Pro. See, this is why I don't do the intro. I don't understand those things.
You can do the intro. It's fine. I don't care.
No, I don't think so.
Welcome to Pro Wrestling. You see, we've tried to do this 3 times already. Welcome to Pro Wrestling Cast, your weekly webcast, and sometimes bi-weekly, sometimes tri-weekly.
Right.
We don't know. We just throw it up whenever the hell we want. We just do it. Pro Wrestling Cast, your news, wrestling, and commentary podcast. We do this once a week at least, but it seems often over the past few weeks since WrestleMania. We're just going to turn it on whenever the hell we want and talk about things we want to talk about.
Right.
I am Aljon Go, lifelong wrestling fan, talking about Raw, talking about Y2J, talking about Tough Enough, talking about going heel. The man himself, he's a tweener. He's got the glove of injustice. Stephen Anthony joining us on the show as always, a wrestling historian. Hello, sir.
How are you doing? Are you having a nice day?
We're good. Now that I'm back home, I'm having a great old time. Really.
Yes, it's always good.
A lot of stuff. It is good to be home. We had a lot of stuff kind of go on in the world of professional wrestling this week. A lot of it, once again, surrounding the WWE and its superstars. We're going to get in depth about that momentarily, but not before we do a little housekeeping. Everyone, thank you so much for tuning into the program. We are broadcasting live via Google Plus, Hangouts, onto YouTube. You can find our YouTube channel. All of our archived shows are there. You can also check out our tremendous podcast. You can download the audio versions on iTunes, courtesy of Weeby Geeks Podcast Network. So that's Pro Wrestling Cast there on iTunes and Stitcher and TuneIn and so many other places. And once again, big thanks to Weeby Geeks Network Podcast to make that show possible. One thing you can do to help us out, as always, is you shop with Amazon. That's great. We want you to shop using our Amazon links. I did it today, in fact. I bought myself a new iPhone cable.
Did you?
So that's what you need to do. I did. Bought a new iPhone cable, got a cool mat for the laptop because my laptop has been just burning up lately. It's so hot because I've been working on this podcast to no end.
I might have to take mine to Apple soon because because of the I was considering switching computers. We use this do the podcast so much. It's like maybe I should use another computer. I have 2 going at once.
A tablet. Well, I tell you, what you need to do is if you're out there, you're shopping online, do us a solid, purchase your stuff using our Amazon link. You in the show notes, find it, so when you download the show via iTunes, just scroll through the show notes and bam, there it is right there. And you can make it happen like that. You can go to our website, prowrestlingcast.com, and do that as well. Our YouTube page has got the link in there, and that will help us tremendously. It doesn't add on anything to your purchase, but Amazon will donate a few cents of every purchase you make to help our show out. And it's not just Amazon, but we have a bunch of affiliate links in there as well. If you're into geeky t-shirts, if you're into buying Fandango movie tickets because the Avengers is coming out, if you're into buying WWE action figures or replica belts, whatever the case is, click on our links at prowrestlingcast.com and make it happen. Every single bit helps us out, and we do appreciate it. Now, without further ado, in the wrestling news for this week, welcome to the newsroom, Mr. Steven.
This week in wrestling news.
Sure. And I say your last name, Steven Anthony.
Hey, this is my fake name.
Hey, we're gonna edit that out. We're simply gonna say, and now with the news. And now with the news. The wrestling heel commentary and wrestling historian, Steven Anthony. What's going on this week?
You know, I was talking once to a pretty famous local newscaster, and I was selling him some suits, and I literally asked him, do you want to use your name or your fake name? That's pretty funny, isn't it? That's kind of natural
so.
in a nutshell, isn't it?
It really is. You know, it's so funny. I listened to one of our first shows, and a lot of our friends didn't realize, wow, Steven's name isn't real, and neither is Aljon's.
I don't have a real name.
Yeah. And you didn't know that Aljon wasn't my real name either.
Well, I've only known you 8 years, so, you know, 8 years
Only
is
8 years.
long enough to learn something like that. Well, what do you want to talk about?
Well, I tell you what, the WWE is on fire. The WWE universe, the Twitterverse, as it were. A lot of stuff going on in the world. So what would you rather tackle first? Shall we just gloss over WWE Raw before we get to Y2J and John Cena?
Oh, you want to talk about WWE Raw from Monday? Yeah. Hold on 1 second. Let's talk about WWE.
Oh, here comes the glove of injustice. Oh no. Okay. Well, let's talk. He's putting on the glove, and you know what that means? It's the glove of injustice. Steven?
Raw sucked. It wasn't good. I know that
Okay. Get the failed trombone.
It wasn't that awful, but it really annoyed me. I could tell they were putting on a deliberately subpar show to save, basically save some, material, if they have any material, for when they're not against stiff competition like the basketball finals. You know what I mean? And they had some tremendous basketball games going on in college basketball. I understand all of that, but to me, I don't think they have any idea. I don't know if they've come up with the direction just yet, because they're basically in a suspended state of animation. Did I see Roman Reigns fight the Big Show again? Did I see that?
You did.
I mean, look, it was a better match than they've had. And look,
yes.
I guess one big news story is Roman Reigns is over now. He's cheered. Yeah. He was cheered at the Smackdown tapings and everything.
You mean he's cheered?
Instead of booed like Ric Flair in 1984 against Dusty Rhodes, like he got cheered, which is not
right.
But
crazy. It's like Bizarro Universe. It's like we're in Canada or something.
Right, janitors. But everything after WrestleMania sort of comes back down. It's like getting drunk and then sobering up. It's like taking drugs and then coming down. Everybody gets such a rush.
Hey kids, stay in school. Stay in school.
Kids, you want to stay in school. Trust me when I tell you that.
You'll be successes like us.
Yeah, you're going to want to stay in school. I know everybody says that, but take it from a hip, older guy like me. But look, that high is over, is my point. They've exhausted their writers, their storylines. They've come up with basically a 4-match split-brand house show format, like I said, and that's all they run. Orton's feuding with Rollins. Reigns is going to forever feud. I swear that Reigns is going to fight Big Show at the pay-per-view. I swear that Reigns is going to fight Big Show at the pay-per-view. I can feel it in my gut, and it's disturbing.
I can feel it too. Yeah.
Cena will continue. Or what do you think of the idea of Cena throwing out random challenges? He had a pretty good match with Stardust. Did you like that? I thought that was a good match.
Yeah, I thought it was good. I think, and I'm glad that Stardust came out with his Gene Simmons cape, and that was also
actually
good.
His best outfit yet. That was awesome. That was actually awesome.
Yeah, I agree because I'm thinking good on them because we know how the mid card is going right now. We already know who's already there, so at least for the next couple months he can have back and forth with people. But what really needs to happen, obviously, is Rusev is going to come back a couple weeks before the pay-per-view, and he's going to have the rubber match.
Right.
So.
And I don't really know if the plan is for Rusev to actually win the title back, which I kind of thought was going to happen all along. And I'm getting the impression that this is perhaps some way to have John Cena have competitive matches in the high mid card every week and not have to job. I think that's what this kind of is all about. And I think with Bryan, it's a way to. Bryan wasn't on the show, was he?
Nope.
Bryan wasn't even on the show.
Nope.
So, and then Bray Wyatt did a short promo.
Yep.
I don't know. It's like,
and Ziggler wasn't on the show either. So you know what's going on. We're saving that for Smackdown.
Ziggler might be just like, he got the 2 wins over Bryan. I thought they were going somewhere. Now it seems like Ziggler's. I mean, clearly Barrett and Bryan and possibly Sheamus are in that title picture. And Sheamus versus Bryan, when allowed to be, is a good match. And I'm sure Barrett Bryan will be good, but I don't see what's going on with Ziggler. They just false start this guy over and over again. I don't even know why he's there. Yeah. He could be the guy. Well, he could be the guy in New Japan having those matches with Tanahashi, instead of AJ Styles.
You know what I think is, and okay, look. Every week we're fans. We're super fans. We love wrestling. We have fun with it. We do a show about it, for Christ's sake.
We do.
Someone asked me, about how much of a mark am I? Well, like, damn, can't you tell? I've got a freaking podcast, but
pretty big fan.
But I'm a fan. I'm a big fan. But let me tell you something. You know who else is a big fan? Dolph Ziggler. And you know what Dolph Ziggler showed me over WrestleMania weekend was how much of a fan he is. So much so that his personality just went way over the top. Like this guy is so hyper and so excited and just such a company guy. You got to respect that. And I think part of the thing is that he throws himself so far into whatever he does that sometimes maybe his overzealousness might get the best of him, And I don't know if that pisses people off or what, but I tell you, if they're to draw
in the back, something's up.
Yeah, I don't know. I tell you, if they're drawing the battle lines of faces and heels, obviously the faces for Intercontinental Championship contention would be, you've got Bryan at the top of the mountain, you've got Dolph Ziggler, right?
Right.
And then you got the 2 heels. You have Sheamus, you got Barrett. Or then you have R-Truth in there too, right? I'm trying to think of who else.
That was
ladder match.
They were trying to be nice to him.
Yeah, they're trying to be. Well, they needed somebody, right? So
I don't know. They
kicked in
R-Truth. I've always liked him. He did a great job on TV, but I don't see him as a part of that at all. I think Barrett, Bryan, Sheamus, Ambrose doesn't seem to be a part of it. I think he might start feuding with Harper or something
Well, that's it right there. You have Harper, you have Ambrose, and that's it. That's your mid card there. Then we're going to tag teams after that, which is a completely other side of the coin we're going to talk about later.
Right.
But, when it comes to what Cena's doing on the U.S. title side of things, I mean, hell, well, you know what? Ambrose could be in the U.S. title mix with him and Cena, because he did end up fighting him and giving him a pretty good match.
I thought he would have been a better champion choice than Cena, but obviously they have their plans. Ambrose, if you continue to book him like you are, will eventually lose his heat. You know, the heat doesn't. Heat's like a balloon. You know, it basically. This is a Kevin Sullivan theory, but it's true. It's like it expands and then comes back out. Another Kevin Sullivan theory is some must die that so others may live, and Ziggler is always dying so that Daniel Bryan, John Cena, Randy Orton live, you know, and that's the position they've put him in because there's something about him that they don't really like or appreciate. I can see things with their eyes sometimes, and just to be honest, there's a split in my mind. There's a part of me that is like the internet smart mark that can watch a match rate and rate it in that Jim Cornette, Dave Meltzer style of rating a match. But there's the flip side of me that actually watches. And here's my question. Do I want to watch Dolph Ziggler have a very competitive 8-minute long match? Or do I want to watch Dusty Rhodes cut a promo on Harley Race about his wife running him out of his house?
God, I still want to find that promo.
That's the difference. That is the difference. And Ziggler doesn't bring that to the table. And I'm sorry, but this is the time of the year where you try to push guys like that. And Neville, if you think about it, Aaron Neville, the singer, is taking Ziggler's spot in some way.
Right.
You know. Now, on to that, if you don't mind. You know, the best match in the show was Seth Rollins against Neville. Okay.
Awesome.
Great match. Really good.
Yes.
Neville does the job.
Yep.
There's a great divide here between NXT and WWE. You know, Vince McMahon was at the NXT show, and he really enjoyed it. This is the one right before WrestleMania, but he didn't like things like them chanting "better than Raw" and things like that. And just because somebody's big in NXT, it doesn't really mean much. You know, they're basically, if you don't give a guy a character from out of the gate, you got a problem. And Neville doesn't really have one. His character is that he has a magical, mystical cape. You know, and I just don't think that's going to work. And if you base it on his match rate, then he might as well be in Japan or Ring of Honor, because that's how that works, you know. He needs a character. And, you know,
I'm glad you said that, because I was going to get to that very same point.
Yeah.
If you look at what has been successful in WWE, characters that stand the test of time, whether it's the 2 sides, 3 sides, 4 sides of Chris Jericho, okay, or the Heartbreak Kid, Shawn Michaels, or the Hitman Bret Hart, Stone Cold Steve Austin, The Rock, The Undertaker, you know, the Outsiders, whatever the case is. And for Christ's sake, even Booker T, you know, or DDP. You look at all those characters, Macho Man, you know, Hogan, they all had a character, and that are always played to their strengths. Roddy freaking Piper.
Right, okay. A terrible worker.
Now,
didn't matter.
Right. Well, you know, and I like Piper. You know, I think he had some really good things, you know, because he you know, but his charisma really put him over the top. Same thing goes, and probably one of my favorite wrestling characters of all time, Eddie Guerrero.
Oh yeah.
You know, Eddie Guerrero could do everything. Right. He could do everything. And Kurt Angle to that respect as well. So Eddie Guerrero thing is,
he's amazing.
Yes. And he found you know, he really found his footing in WWE. And granted, he was playing a stereotype, but he rose above the stereotype to have a not just be compelling storyteller in the ring, but outside of the ring. And here's what I don't understand about WWE is you look at writing and casting a TV show, play, novel, film. There are certain things, and even when you're writing a song, okay, because Stephen, you and I both are songwriters,
right?
When you're writing, you put yourself in that frame of mind, or if you're casting a TV show, there are certain archetypes that you will put into those roles of mentor, the fresh-faced kid, the rogue, the heel. For example, Jim Ross had said, I think, something this week in his podcast about, well, I'm a heel. Well, what kind of heel are you?
Right.
Oh, it didn't really occur to me that there were more than one heel. Well, damn it, internet wrestling community. There are more than one kind of vanilla baby face. You've got a white meat baby face. You've got the strong baby face. You've got the tweener. You have got, the villainous heel. You've got the cowardly heel. You've got the
shades of gray,
shades of gray. Yeah. And the same thing goes, like, in Star Wars, if everybody was Luke Skywalker, it would be a shitty movie. know
right.
So you have the rogue, you have the mentor. Why don't you put these people and cast them in your film, WWE? They're the intellectual, the intellectual heel, the Lex Luthor of the WWE universe for a long time was Chris Jericho.
Yeah. He was a great
Chris
heel.
Jericho was Lex Luthor, okay? Because he had the brains, he had the vocabulary. He went in and he knew how to dissect somebody and throw down using his words. Whereas the cowardly heel, you had of course you have now Seth Rollins, who plays a cowardly heel. Who's going to be the bullish heel? Who's going to be the who's going to be the Rhino? Okay. Who's going to be that, that really big, lumbering guy? That's going to be a guy like, Wade Barrett,
Right.
So you decide what kind of character you're going to be and cast them in those roles, and you write things that will work for them. I mean, what do you feel about that? Why isn't anyone doing this? What makes for compelling TV?
It feels like they've dumped people out into the situation, and that's from lack of foresight, because they're so busy, it seems to me, like trying to set up this next huge thing, trying to get Brock Lesnar signed, trying to get The Rock and Ronda Rousey to show up, that would they go like, well, we got Neville, we got the Lucha Dragons, we got Hideo Itami. All right, throw him out there. Okay, Itami job Big Show in the Battle Royal. Neville job, he's a good wrestler, job to Rollins. They have all these writers that they hire from Hollywood. How come they can't figure this out really is the key, but they're not wrestling people. The one guy, or one or two guys you have back there is a guy like Michael Hayes. Michael Hayes can tell you how to be a heel, no problem. But to draw it back a little bit with Eddie Guerrero is a good example of a person who did the luchador style. He did the luchador style. He went to ECW, still did the luchador style. He went to WCW, still did the luchador style. Kind of Japanese thrown in. He came to WWE. He was a dumb stereotype. It was stupid and racist, as usual, as wrestling can be. But in the end of the day, he learned how to cut a great promo, and he became a WWE-style main eventer. I'm not saying it's better than wrestling Japanese or Mexican style. I'm saying that's how you make money in the United States, because Vince McMahon owns the monopoly on everything. So a guy like Hideo Itami as Kenta in Pro Wrestling Noah in Japan was the absolute top guy for all time. He was just unreal. And what I fear is going to happen, and I can feel it, is he's going to end up like Sin Cara, Ultimo Dragon, Yoshihiro Tajiri, and so many of those people that they fit with a dumb stereotype who never really can get past the fact that they're just a great worker. He is an incredible and great worker in Japan. He is as good as possible. But over here, unless he becomes a character, he's not going to be anything, and neither will Aaron Neville. And honestly, and I know I'm joking around with his name, First of all, what's the first thing I thought? His hair looks like shit.
Yes.
That's the first thing I thought. I'm like,
It's always about the hair first. First you criticize Sting's hair, now you're talking about Neville's hair.
oh, by the way, I was listening to Chris Jericho and Edge review WrestleMania. You know what they both said? They said Sting's hair looked like shit.
Hair. Yeah.
Yeah, they said his hair looked like shit.
You know what?
The match. That's exactly what I thought. Everybody had a good old chuckle. Everybody had a good old chuckle at me, but I'm right. I mean, it's just like,
no, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. And it was funny.
I made that joke too.
Because I was driving down the road this week for work, and I was listening to their Edge and Y2J breakdown WrestleMania. I laughed because I heard that, and so many of the things they talked about, I just laughed. Like the fact that they are both Roman Reigns fans, and I said, ha, 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 so are we. This is great. All the internet wrestling community hates Roman Reigns, and I'm sitting there going, dude, why hate on the guy? He's Samoan, right? So once again, you play that stereotype. And in the world of wrestling, if you're Samoan, you're badass. That's automatically badassery.
I mean, I hate to sound.
I mean, they don't call them Samoan bone crushers for nothing.
Yeah, I hate to sound like a stereotype kind of guy, but I mean, Samoans are badass people. They just are. I don't know.
Badass people.
I'm sure there's some wimpy Samoans. I've yet to see them.
No, they're you have yet to see. I mean, I'm Filipino Chinese myself. I know people that are Samoan. For heaven's sake, my cousin married a Samoan guy, and so I mean, it's like, and he's a big dude. Trust me. I mean, fans awesome. So I have some relation to Samoans, and I have no problem with that. I mean, but that's what it is. But I just had to laugh at that whole situation because they're breaking down WrestleMania, and we had the same type of thoughts they had. So. Right.
And they said the same thing was that the guys had 2 straight good pay-per-view matches with Daniel Bryan and Lesnar. And you can say, well, he has good matches with everybody. Hey, I get it. You're in the main event for 20 minutes and 20 minutes. It's hard to just go out there and have an incredible main event, 2 different styles. And Jericho put it best. He goes, hey, listen, I know all you internet guys want to say this and that and rate matches. Well, I'm a professional wrestler. Like, I'm a professional at it, so I know. You're not professional. I know, and I'm telling you he can work because I would know because I'm a professional wrestler. And that's all the proof I need,
Yeah. Well, and you're right. I mean, his match with Big Show, right? I mean, it was great. Like, I saw it and I was like, it was not bad. Raw.
That's the psychology they tried to put in and interject, and it wasn't working, but it will work. It's that, like, beat him up, I don't give a shit. He's got to fight bigger dudes than him. That's kind of the problem, But that was kind of what Undertaker did for a while, and that was how he could sell. And he's good. He's not like Ric Flair, but he's very good. And I see them putting the title on him by SummerSlam or after. I definitely can see that happening, or maybe even next year. Speaking.
Here comes enhancement talent. They need to just bring back enhancement talent. I mean, you can't trot out. He goes after Big Show one day. The next day, he's going to go after Wade Barrett or something, to have him job out, and he's going to job out to Mark Henry. He's going to job out to Great Khali whenever the hell he comes back. I mean, they're going to have him. They're going to have every big man job to him until Brock Lesnar comes back.
Mm-hmm. That's a good point.
And
I don't think Great Khali's coming back. Let's hope.
Well, that's what I hear. The word is on the street. Great Khali is coming back now that he's got his wrestling goal.
I want a source. I want a source.
I'll tell you the source, but I heard a source that Great Khali was supposed to come back, and
don't tell me that.
And
can't believe that.
It opened up some type of.
Oh God.
Let me check the date on this story just to be sure, because if it was an April 1st joke,
hey, that would be great. That would be funny.
Are we just starting it now?
Speaking of stereotypes, I'm just saying that
Yes.
because I don't really like to watch him wrestle. No offense to him. Speaking of stereotypes, the Lucha Dragons also.
That's all right. Steven, you still there?
Okay. This was
All
like
right,
very
Steve.
special.
Hey, Steven. So you were
you hear me?
saying the Lucha Dragons. Yes, you're back. We lost you for a second.
okay.
So you were talking about the Lucha Dragons?
So we have the Lucha Dragons had a match on Raw. It was like a stereotype special. It was like Lucha Dragons and New.
Yes.
So you get all the stereotypes in one match. Great. And who do they have the Lucha Dragons work with? We've been talking about this kid being the next Rey Mysterio, right? So he's going to work against Kofi Kingston, right?
Right.
Yeah, Kofi Kingston doesn't work luchador style. Okay? That's stupid. They don't understand that. They had Sin Cara come in, and who they have him work with? Chavo Guerrero, right? Because he works with... No, he doesn't. He's just Mexican. He doesn't work luchador style. So stupid. So the match was not as good as last week. New Day still sucks. They're kind of heels, I guess.
Yeah, they're getting there. They actually had an interview, I believe, on the app, which was just like, okay, guys, Renee Young, I think it was Renee Young, had said something like, guys, how do you feel about New Day and people chanting New Day sucks? And I was like, we're still gonna clap.
No, that was funny. I actually liked that.
I did too.
Funny, but
well, when he's talking like a preacher, even he was talking like a nerd. It was really funny. He's got a great personality. But
I know a lot of preachers, and he's not doing that character correctly. You know, he doesn't have Holy Ghost power. I'm not hearing it. But you know, you can tell. But okay, I gotta say this about Raw too. Oh my God. Okay, I gotta say this about Raw too. Okay.
Go for it.
Brian Saxton, is that his name? Byron Saxton?
Byron Saxton.
Brian Hardcastle?
Okay.
Yeah. When they were having the women's match, this was great. JBL makes a comment that Paige won her first title by pinning her mother, which happened overseas, okay?
Yes.
Now, I didn't watch this happen, so I'm no expert on it, okay? I can hear Byron Sexcastle whisper and ask JBL if that happened in WWE. And Bradshaw goes nuts on him. No, it didn't happen here. He had had enough. He had it. There were a lot of long pauses in that match. You could tell Vince was yelling at him.
Oh, there are a lot of long pauses in the entire Raw. So go ahead.
That's what that is, by the way. That's Vince yelling at the announcer. Because he's on the headset with the announcer screaming if they suck. That's why Mick Foley stopped announcing after a short period of time. He writes about it in one of his blogs or books, whatever he writes now.
Yeah, the announcers are being produced.
Produced. They might as well be having a match with Vince McMahon. You know. And then Byron Hardcastle is freaked out. You know, now Bradshaw's lost it on him. He's getting yelled at by McMahon, and he sends it over to talk about. I forgot how this went. He sent it over to talk about. He said it was supposed to be Miz and Mizdow, but he introduced something different. Did you catch that? I forget what it was.
I did. I forgot to, but
it was just like a clusterfuck.
This ever since Michael Cole was murdered by Brock Lesnar,
convalescing.
Yes. Oh my gosh, he's convalescing. That is
well,
funny.
he needs to just come back. I mean, I want to get over the Brock meeting. It's over. Let's just.
Well, look, I really feel for Byron Saxton. It wasn't, but maybe a couple weeks ago, I was talking about how the commentary panels for NXT and the pre and post shows were so good. And they really are, because if left to their own devices, the panel with Byron Saxton and with Renee Young and Corey Graves and Alex Riley and those people are really, really good. Right. They're really good. Now, I don't know how much producing or segment producing is going on behind the scenes of any one of those shows. But when you get into a situation for the live show, it's McMahon calling the shots on the mic, and people don't realize that. And people are like, okay, I hate saying this again, but you're listening to this show, so you're obviously part of the IWC, the Internet Wrestling Community. And they were relentless. They were relentless. Now, let me tell you this. Are you ready for the promo of the week? Because I've got one right now. Just because you have a microphone, are you ready? Just because you have a microphone doesn't mean that you will do a good job.
Right.
Just because you can doesn't mean you should. Just because you can podcast doesn't mean you should podcast. Just because you do podcast doesn't make you a journalist or a radio or on-air personality. Okay. I have done this for nearly 20 freaking years. Okay, people. I went to college for this. I'm not the best at it, but I am not the worst at it. And I know how to produce a goddamn show. So let me tell you something. When those people go behind the desk and they're talking about the show that you're seeing live for 5 million people, you know, it is a difficult job, especially when you have the man who built the wrestling industry as we know today producing you in a headset where you're screaming, and you're listening to yourself as well as your colleagues, the action on the ring. You've got your show notes, you've got this, and someone's actually yelling to you what you need to say. That is difficult. You don't know this at home, but I actually listen to myself in the show, and I have one ear so I can hear the outside, one ear so I can hear the inside, and I can hear Steven. And there's a little bit of a delay every time I talk into the mic when I can register that. And I have to tune all that stuff out.
Right.
Because there's latency when we record.
Right.
And I do that with every podcast I ever produce.
Wow.
And it's a little bit different than when I listen to myself on the air. When I was here in Nashville doing FM radio, you know, I was doing everything myself. And I have, and I don't know if you know this, I'm gonna pat myself and do a little Jericho right here. Okay.
All right.
I have done over 3,000 interviews over the course of 17 years.
Wow.
Okay.
That's a shitload of interviews.
I have interviewed a lot of freaking people. It's not easy, but it is fun. And and we're going to talk about that in Y2J when we talk about that segment. But it is difficult. Get off Byron Saxton. Get off his jock. He is young. He is trying really hard, and I commend him and the rest of the young broadcasters for doing what they do. Now, this is how I feel. This is how I feel about it, though.
Okay.
He's giving an opportunity to step up and get that brass ring, prove his worth. JBL and Booker T were doing him no favors.
Booker T really sucked.
They are well, and look, you guys know how much of a fan I am of Booker T.
Wait, let me say one thing in the midst of your incredible promo.
Yes.
Booker T in the Neville match during the second segment, he says, "Now we're in the second half of the match, so blah blah blah." He said, "We're in the second half of the match."
Mm-hmm.
Meaning, like, I know this is the second half of the match. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I've never seen anybody do that. God,
it's difficult for a new broadcast team to get their legs, to really establish rapport. And I believe wholeheartedly, okay, that when Booker comes in to a Raw after show or whatever the panel is, he does have a really big personality, and it tends to spill over, onto the shows. There are times you can interject yourself. There are times you talk in, and trust me, if I had the opportunity, I would love to announce for WWE. I think on my bio on my website for many, many years, it says I would have loved to be a commentator on a wrestling show. And I had an opportunity to try to do that with the local wrestling show here. with a friend, but because my travel schedule is so bad with work, I was unable to do that. But
I was
one of
wondering
these
what happened
days,
with that.
yeah, one of these days, it'll be nice. Maybe you and I can do commentary on a match at some point.
Oh, they don't want me to do that.
Classic matches with Aljon and Steven. But
Yeah, I do that.
I feel, you can definitely feel that Michael Cole has job security. Okay.
Yeah.
So, and if you ever thought that Michael Cole sucked behind the microphone, and that you could get up there and do it, I dare you to do it.
Right.
I dare you to do it. It's not an easy job to find ways to make the program fun and intriguing and hold people's attention. It's not very easy. So my hat's off to Byron Saxton. I know it's not an easy job, buddy, but try to, keep it up. I have a tremendous amount of respect for Jim Ross and Joey Styles. I mean, those are the wrestling voices I grew up with. I grew up with, God bless, Gorilla Monsoon and Jesse Ventura and Vince McMahon. Those were, wrestling commentators when I was listening, to wrestling back in the day. And listening, and I tell you, if you really want to listen to really good people calling action, I mean, go listen to Bobby Heenan and Gorilla Monsoon back in the day. That was incredible. That was some damn good shit right there.
And they were calling shit matches.
They were calling horrible matches. Jobbers. Even listen to Lord Alfred Hayes, for heaven's sake.
Lord Alfred was fine.
Yeah, Lord Alfred was. It's hard. I tell you who wasn't very good. Well, maybe I shouldn't, because the IWC will probably crucify me if I say this. But anyway, that's my personal preference. Go ahead, Steve.
I just wanted to say that was an outstanding promo. Aljon, 20 years. He has. I knew of that. No, wait, I'm lying. 20 years. I was gonna lie. I was gonna say I knew of him before I met him, but that's not technically true. But 20 years of experience, 3,000 interviews with pretty big stars, and then the reason I'm on this podcast is because of my looks. Because I have no
Let me
experience.
say this, man. You and I have been talking about doing a podcast for wrestling for years now.
We have.
And I said,
basically our phone conversations on video.
Yeah. Why the hell do we just not
just
do
organized it,
Yeah, we just organized it. And now we're just capturing it for fun, just for you guys.
Yeah.
But
and it's tremendous fun. It's the most fun I've ever had doing anything. I love wrestling. I love talking about wrestling with you. And now that I do this, I try to be very, very factual and make sure that I get everything absolutely correct too, just to be very specific. So anything you hear me saying here, even though I'm not at a I haven't done this professionally before, just know that everything I say is factual. I'm not saying anything that I didn't make sure was correct, So I know there's a lot of things out there where people say a bunch of crap that it's not true. Like there's just stuff that's out there that's just not true. And there's you basically got two sources of information because they actually talk to the wrestlers. You got PW Torch, you got the Wrestling Observer. Any other thing you read online is news that they got from them. That's the God's the honest truth. Jason Powell, Brian Alvarez, Meltzer, and Keller talk to wrestlers. Nobody else does that. So all we can do is talk about it, give our opinion, review it, give people, talk about Blu-rays they might want to get, talk about the news that we've heard. But that's another thing I wanted to just point out is like we're very factual about what we do, as well. There's nothing
and just so you know
going on.
Yeah, exactly. And just so you know, once again, just like we talked about last week, Stephen and I, we invest a lot of money in reading the news or being a VIP or having shoot videos and downloading apps so we can get the latest news, and that's what we do.
Those damn shoot videos are $20 a pop. I'm here to tell you.
They're not cheap. They're not cheap.
Because they sell them to indie wrestlers. That's who buys that, supposedly. But I'll just tell you, I've bought a Virgil shoot interview from High Spots. Virgil.
Virgil.
Now that's the worst. Now that's the worst one. There's no doubt. And actually, I would suggest it because I'm not gonna try to hurt anybody's revenue stream. I would suggest to buy the Virgil shoot interview and watch it because it really is amazing.
You know what? I actually like not only listening to podcasts, and they're very much a great source of shoot information because when they go, and it's great. Right. But I actually love watching the shoot interviews with the WWE divas. I'm just a big fan. I do.
I do. Tori Wilson. They have a good one with Tori Wilson where she actually and Maria.
Maria Kanellis is one of my favorites. She's outstanding. Tori Wilson was great.
Ivory. They have a good one with Ivory with kayfabe commentaries.
She right now, I mean, she's still great. Ivory is still awesome after all these years. But anyway, let's we're off on a tangent once again. But get back to Raw. Yes, you're right.
You've got a 20-minute promo.
I can't help myself. But God bless Byron Saxton, and God bless us, everyone. Thank you very much.
His name is Brian Thornbird.
Brian Thornbird, yes. So,
hey, fuck you, Brian Saxton. I ain't got no love for you. I'm trying to keep it even keel here. That's not true. He's been put in a shit situation. It's Booker T. It's Booker T. Actually, I swear it's Booker T. doing this.
I tell you, they are not helping him out. I mean, there were so many times I was thinking to myself, and JBL is a perfect heel commentator. He is so good at what he does.
But not helpful.
But he's not helpful. And Booker T, I'm like, Booker, come on, help a brother out for Christ's sake, and
the second half
been on the hot chair, and to be quite honest, guys like Todd Grisham and Matt Stryker, Vampiro, they don't do a bad job of doing the commentary at all. Lest I forget, Mike Tenay or even Tony Schiavone. Man, if you look at some of the old
let's take it easy.
Well, I'm not a Tony Schiavone fan, but Tony Schiavone has been in the business for a long damn time.
Old Tony is good.
Old.
I'll tell you who's the worst.
AWA Tony Schiavone is not bad. Yes.
The worst
it was
is
AWA, right?
No, it was NWA, I think.
NWA. Oh, you're right. NWA.
Which became the worst was from NWA, and he did it with Tony Schiavone. And I'm so sorry. Because I love this guy. David Crockett from the old NWA show is the worst announcer I've ever heard. He's just absolutely awful.
That's why I was watching War Games.
I can't even describe why he's awful. It's almost impossible. I will tell you when Ric Flair won the title for the second time, but it was first big time, was because he didn't have a good run. The second run he beats Harley Race. It's a big deal. David Crockett has to say, "We have a big announcement today. Give it to Dave." David goes, "I just want to let everybody know that, ladies and gentlemen, the new World Heavyweight Champion is Nature Boy Ric Flair." He goes, "I just want everybody to know that, lady and gentlemen." How do you mess that up? Ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah.
He screws the whole thing up. He's so I can't even explain it. Like, he's just the worst. He did all these terrible. And he was in the family that owned Crockett Promotions, which ran out of North Carolina and Charlotte, and had Ric Flair in their back pocket. And they weren't the NWA. They were WCW. They were Mid-Atlantic. It's very complicated. They were Mid-Atlantic wrestling out of Charlotte, but they became the NWA because the NWA wasn't really a board after 1987. It's hard. It's very complicated. You have to listen very closely to Ole Anderson shoot interviews to know. If you dare.
It is a difficult job. It is a difficult job, the commentary, being in the hot seat. And I can understand why guys like Joey Styles wanted to get the hell out, and Mick Foley too. Yeah. So
speaking of, what about Y2J? Well, how about Y2J? How about his commentary?
oh, dude, love Y2J. Y2J can do no wrong. Are we going to go ahead and move into that?
I'm going to move into that. That's what I'm in that.
Live with Chris Jericho had its Virgin broadcast, its first ever debut on the WWE Network this past Monday after Raw.
Mm-hmm.
And it was not a Talk is Jericho. Now, if you're familiar with the Talk is Jericho podcast, it's one of the top podcasts from Podcast One featuring Chris Jericho. He's an entertainment guy, so he doesn't just do wrestling, but he talks to rock and rollers and actors and funny things. I believe, he models himself after, a type of like, not a Howard Stern, but just a regular radio personality. I mean, he has had so many years on Sirius XM radio doing his talk shows. And I believe he brought some of that Larry King-esque, and I'm talking good Larry King from the 80s, not bad Larry King like now,
right?
But like Larry King kind of entertainment style interviews. And that's the way I perceive his interviews to be. I didn't think, and to be quite honest, I'm still a big fan of Stone Cold Steve Austin. His style is a little bit different because it really is him talking. It really is either Chris or even Stone Cold. That's who they are. It's not like they were trying to be someone else, for example. But his guest on his first ever show on the network was John Cena, the prototype John Cena.
Yeah.
And John
too.
And John was very much himself. I think he was very relaxed. And for me, Chris asked all the questions that fans were asking. Did he ever take steroids? Will he ever turn heel? How do you feel about the bad comments of being booed? What did you feel about The Rock? How do you feel that the superstars of today are different from the superstars that came up, alongside you in OVW, which was great, by the way.
Yeah.
And let's talk about some wrestling stories about us on the road and how you can drink me under the table. I mean, there was a lot of personality. There was great tidbits of information. There was a glimpse of how John Cena is in real life. And if you don't watch Total Divas and get a little bit of a picture or have seen any interviews that he's done, it gives you a picture insight into a man's career, his outlook, and the type of person he is when he steps out of the squared circle. Right. Stephen, what did you think about the interview?
I think he did a great job filling the shoes of Steve Austin, who appears to be, not with the company for whatever reason. Quickly, Austin was supposed to do Tough Enough, which is going to be on USA starting June 23rd, and that's no longer the case. He's doing a Smoking Skull show. And there's been a lot of back and forth about the podcast thing, and everybody's talking about how great Steve Austin is at the podcast, and he is great, and he's somebody we all know and love from our childhood. But the fact of the matter is Chris Jericho is tailor-made for the network and being the guy to interview people. His personality is similar to his podcast. His podcast is in a lot of ways different, but he has this very natural energy and flow to him that really he knows how to talk to people and get the best out of them. I've heard him talk to Hulk Hogan, which I remember thinking, boy, this is going to be odd. It really wasn't. It was a very natural conversation.
One of the best interviews he's had.
And Hogan was relaxed and talked very openly, and as honestly as Hogan can talk. Hogan is quite a worker. He's always on the work. And they had a really nice conversation, and he did the same thing with Cena. You can tell these guys knew each other from the road. You could tell these guys had experiences together. I was shocked he brought up the steroid thing. It was like that's almost a taboo thing to bring up, especially the way he phrased
the
it.
WWE Network.
Yeah, and and it's easy to get in trouble these days with them. There are a lot of things that make them upset. Stephanie got upset at AJ, and supposedly they might have gotten upset at Austin over his China comments. I don't know if that's actually true or not. All I can tell you is he's not
a big rumor
on the network. But Jericho, that's a tough job, is what I'm getting at. You can say anything wrong at any time, and it's going to be tough.
Chris has been under attack a lot recently on the internet because of how he said that he really enjoyed WrestleMania, that he's a Roman Reigns fan, that he is now doing his show, which, by the way, is exclusive to the WWE Network. If you download the Talk is Jericho podcast, you will not find a edited version of that show on his podcast channel like the Steve Austin show. Steve Austin show on podcast one is different, or is its own thing.
Right.
And when he did the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast on the network, he basically rebroadcast it on his podcast channel, which is fine. But I still contend that Stone Cold Steve Austin means so much money to the network that I think it's just a matter of time before he comes back, because Austin equals money.
Steve Austin has enough money and enough connection to not have to be involved with them. So he
That's
can.
True.
Not that Jericho can't do that too, but Steve Austin's a no-nonsense guy, and they say, well, Tough Enough we're going to film it now, we're going to put it on in June. He's like, no, I'm filming this show. He doesn't back down, and not that Jericho would, but that's what I think it is. I think he was just like, no, I'm doing my show now, and people wanted to go, well, I heard The Undertaker was supposed to be in a plane with him, and I don't know, I don't care. No. I can just tell you what I see. Anyway, Jericho's a great replacement for him. He's I'm anxious to see who else he interviews, and I'd love to see him do an Edge interview, even though Edge has been on his show more than a few times and tells a lot of really great stories, and I'm sure we won't see Lance Storm or anything on the WWE Network, but I'm interested to see him talk to people. It'd be interesting to see what he talked to Daniel Bryan about, or maybe Bret Hart could be on, another Canadian guy. There's a lot of different ways to do it.
Christian.
Yeah.
Let's talk about Christian now that he's quote unquote retired from in-ring competition.
Right.
Supposedly.
I believe that. I think he's had, Mark Henry did a shoot interview and they said, who's the stiffest guy you worked with over there? And he said Christian, which I thought was pretty amazing. I think Christian, I'd heard for a long time that they were getting more and more worried with his health. So it wasn't like it just happened one day. It sort of was like, you might remember he had some concussions, and he's had a lot of them. And I think he's really legitimately gone, because Edge is legitimately gone, and those ladder matches will mess you up. That ladder match generation, those Hardy Boys need to be careful, because they're getting up there close, they're around our age, and
yep.
They can't, the bumps Jeff takes, like the one he took the other day, probably one of the best bumps of the year, at the same time, totally dangerous. And anyway, guys need to be a little bit more careful at that age, and I think Christian was right to retire. Would they have him on as a guest? Probably so, with Jericho's help, but they need to bring him back in some capacity at some point. He was a good asset to that company for a long time, and a recent world champion, as weird as that sounds.
Yeah. Well, the thing that, we're talking about the longevity of those people from the ladder match generation as it pertains to, people like a Chris Jericho or something like that. It's funny, because as they were talking about in the interview about John Cena and his longevity and his career on top, as it were, they talked about how many people could stand to take the brass ring, take it to that next level.
Right.
I think a lot of people don't realize the reason why John Cena is still there is because a lot of the people that came up during the post-Attitude Era, which we will call the Ruthless Aggression Era, that's what I'm calling it. Okay, because it's one generation removed from the generation we are now in, which is the Reality Era. Okay. Right. So I'm calling this the Ruthless Aggression Era. Eddie Guerrero is dead. Kurt Angle is gone. He's in TNA. Edge is retired. CM Punk is gone. Undertaker has got a reduced role in the company. He comes out once a year. The Hardy Boys are gone. The Dudleys are gone for now.
The Dudleys aren't ever going to come back, though.
No. But so Batista is gone.
Right.
Triple H is gone.
Two matches.
And Chris Jericho, he's sometimes there, So what other dance partners has he had? Look at all of John Cena's rivals. Batista, Randy Orton, Triple H, Chris Jericho, Edge, CM Punk. They're all pretty much gone. Who else is there left? When people say we're tired of John Cena, and why is he still there? And where's the other competition? Do they not realize? And no one ever talks about this, but they're all gone.
Right.
From that era. That era is gone.
Yeah, it's that OVW 2001 era that's on the tail end now.
Brock Lesnar.
Right.
There's no one.
2 ago. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. There's no one left for him to dance with, guys. So
it's over.
This is that generation is gone, and they burned out quick. And the people that were supposed to be primed to take John Cena's place, CM Punk, gone.
Couldn't cut it, be honest with you. Couldn't keep up with all that backstage wildness in the schedule.
Yep.
That's what he won't say because he's very proud. But that's what a lot of those guys couldn't do. It's a tough deal.
Yep.
They might not chop each other like Wahoo McDaniel, but they still travel like that.
Yeah.
And that's psychologically harder than anything else involved.
Let me tell you. Yeah. And you're right. You're right. Another thing people don't realize is I've been on the road nonstop for the past 11 years.
Right.
It's lonely. It's difficult to maintain a family. It's hard to do. You miss out on friends. I've had friends, come and go. I've had a lot of friends come and go.
Not me.
Not you. It's hard. I've been married for 11 years, and it's difficult on a marriage. It's difficult, when you're trying to have kids.
Yeah.
This is as real as this show is going to get, man.
It's getting real, bro.
It's getting real. So let's move on to something else. Let's talk about, before we wrap this sucker up, I like Y2J. Y2J is doing a great job. I've always been a Chris Jericho fan. You may not always agree with what he says. I tend to really enjoy what he says. And I can't wait. We're going to expect a brand new Chris Jericho, a Live with Chris Jericho show every month on the WWE Network, as we're promised.
Yeah, and that's going to be an excellent asset to getting people to order that network. Because we're talking about realness. He brings a realness and comfortable feeling. You really had the impression that he is on the road with these guys year in, year out, like a guy like John Cena, drank him under the table. They had a story about putting him to bed.
Great story.
Thing. Yeah,
great
that
story.
Is reality. Wrestling is the first, reality show, if you think about it. It's not reality, but it's portrayed as reality, but it is reality because they make the non-reality reality. Does that make sense?
That's why we're in the reality era right now.
Right, and they're masters of non-reality reality. Mm-hmm. And he's perfect at spinning that and making it like, look, this is a real thing. Steve Austin, I think, to me, was a little bit more interested in, I'm Steve Austin, I'm going to ask the hard questions. And that was kind of his gimmick for their show. I don't think that really works for them. Mm-hmm. And maybe that's all it was.
Well, I think what it is they probably wanted to do more with Steve, and his schedule will not allow it.
Steve does what he wants, man. Steve
does whatever he wants.
They wanted Steve to do a match in SummerSlam 2005.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's 10 years ago. Steve does what he wants.
Mm-hmm.
Steve does what he wants.
He does.
Just
God
like
love
this.
Steve. And by the way, Steve is funny as hell on his podcast. You know,
Hilarious.
people don't. One of the funniest podcasts is him and Kevin Nash just shooting the crap
Yeah.
back and forth. It's
Yeah.
just funny. But moving on, talking about programming, we did reveal that Tough Enough would be coming back for yet another season on the USA Network. But that is not the only show. Looks like Smackdown will now be moving from Sci-Fi, which is another Universal NBC network, to, for the very first time ever, the USA Network.
Right.
Which, by the way, is apparently investing itself in sports and now sports entertainment, doing live hockey, more live sports, sport events. Obviously very heavily invested in the NHL, and now not just the dog show, but SmackDown is coming over.
Well, this is their effort. Like I was saying, their relationship with NBC Universal is very important, and it's one of the things that people don't talk about on the internet. But their relationship with NBC Universal is a tremendously important aspect of their entire business, because their TV revenue is the biggest thing. While this network is trying to get on its feet, there's no pay-per-view revenue. They make money at house shows. That's a good business gauge. That's a good way to keep people on the road and paid. It's about TV. And what's going on is USA is the #1 cable network, but last month AMC has acquired what they have, The Walking Dead now. Is that what it is? And then TBS had the basketball tournament. Okay.
Yeah.
So USA always said we got Raw, but we don't want a bunch of shows. Well, now USA feels like AMC and TBS could make them the #3 cable show from #1. So they've decided to go ahead and put SmackDown on. I'm not sure if they're going to be on Thursday or Friday. I would suggest Thursday. It worked really well like that when they debuted in '99. I'm a little vexed by one thing. You know, SmackDown has been a PG show forever. It was on UPN originally. How will this show differ? What will we see in this show that'll make it interesting? They never write anything for the show. That was really the worst thing about the brand split, was that the best thing about the brand split, the only good thing, was that SmackDown had a direction of some sort, you know. You know, when Daniel Bryan, for example, was exclusively on SmackDown, there was a reason to watch it if you like Daniel Bryan. That's no longer the case. So now what they kind of have is secondary matches, almost retreads of Raw. They almost have like the same matches each week, or on both shows in slightly different ways, or SmackDown will have the same main event each week. And I'm just wondering how they're going to differentiate the two shows, because they'll be on the same network, on the same channel, a few days, 3 or 4 days apart, depending on when you watch it. So
well, hey, hold. Let me tell you something, player. Let me tell you how this show is going to be different. First, they're going to get Teddy Long back in the seat, player. Then they're also going to have a tag team match between all the mid-carders and the tag teams. And that's how they're going to do it, player.
Right.
Holla if you hear me. Holla, holla.
Yeah. Look, I would love for them to bring Teddy back, first of all. Teddy's tremendous. And he threw me off.
Sorry, I know.
Teddy's. That must be what it's like to talk to me. But Teddy's tremendous. And SmackDown will need some sort of direction, because if you think about it, they should have a higher amount of. It should be a higher rated show, because they have more homes that they go into than Sci-Fi did, and it'll be hopefully on a good night. They're already doing like 2.8 million a show. That's not chump change. That's a really high rated cable show.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Raw was back at around the 4 million mark, but they had hard competition, so actually wasn't a bad rating. But they lost 1 million viewers from the week before. But that's how much money Brock Lesnar really does generate for the company. But anyway, SmackDown will have to. I have a funny feeling it's gonna. They need to make it a good show. I DVR SmackDown and watch it like that. Whenever they have a taping, I immediately read the taping results the next morning. I want to know what happened, because it usually has something to do with something. But it's hard to differentiate what they're doing on Raw, and then that the next night when they tape it, it's like it's the same show but slightly altered. But there's nothing new. Like Michael Cole isn't going to get killed on SmackDown, for example.
Well, and I do believe what they're doing is, and they had thought about this is once again, that's why the U.S. title and the Intercontinental title are where they're at now. That is why they're testing a Byron Saxton in Michael Cole's place while he's on vacation, whatever, convalescing, as the storyline goes. So they are solely trying to prepare for the SmackDown move and trying to differentiate maybe the two shows on the same network. That's kind of my thought process.
Do you think that perhaps it's a workout, like to see if Brian Sex Castles will be ready to do SmackDown?
Totally.
You might be right about it. I never thought of that.
Yeah. I mean, when I heard about this, I said, well, it all makes sense. So how do you further differentiate the shows? Well, you have to get a whole new broadcast team to make it different, because I don't know if the WWE is going to invest money into generating a brand new set for that show, because Raw and SmackDown look they're the same. It's the same setting. The only difference is it's got different LED graphics.
I think
it's not like you had. What's that?
One's bluer.
One's bluer. That's right. One's bluer and one's redder. And you don't have that 25,000 pound, or 25,000 ton fist that broke glass, like you used to.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe they could concentrate more on, tag teams and developing some other talent. We'll have to see.
I don't know. I've never been a big SmackDown fan, honestly, because I felt like the writers were constantly writing exhausted.
Mm-hmm.
I felt like they wrote Raw.
It was an afterthought.
And they're like, okay, now we got to write SmackDown.
Yeah,
and I could feel
it was an afterthought. It was an afterthought until Paul Heyman got to it, and then Paul Heyman decided that he actually wanted to produce a show.
No, that show was awesome, but they fired his ass.
Yep.
So they don't want it that way. They don't want it that way. They don't want it that way.
We'll have to see.
We'll
have to see if. Yep. We'll have to see.
Life.
That's right. Oh, that's great that you brought that up. Tough Enough is coming back as well. We mentioned that, alluded to that. A lot of rumors saying that Chris Jericho is going to be the host for Tough Enough, but I've always loved Tough Enough. It's always interesting to me to see who survives, who wins Tough Enough, and who ultimately gets a contract, and more importantly, who has lodging. I can't even talk. Who actually has a career? Yeah, who has a career as a WWE superstar after the show is over. For example, the last edition of Tough Enough a couple years back on USA had Bill DeMott as a trainer, Trish Stratus, Booker T, and the head judge / guy host was Stone Cold, which was a great show. But the first contestant eliminated from the show, Ariane, is of course Cameron in WWE, and here she is, part Funkadactyl. Now she's been in NXT, and she's in the main roster, Total Divas now. And I guarantee you that her favorite match is no longer Alicia Fox versus Melina. You know
what's funny? Alicia Fox versus Melina was a really good match.
It was a good match. Of course it was.
Because Alicia Fox is really stiff, and a lot of people shit on that comment. That is a good match. I think
it's great. By the way, it's one of my favorite. It's one of my favorite T-shirts on ProWrestlingTees.com. By the way, just so you know. I just want to add that in there.
I watch women's matches and he's just trying to say I watch women's matches and they're good too, But if I say I watch this Bull Nakano match, I watch this Manami Toyota match, and it was like Steve Austin would be like, oh shit, yeah, those guys are tough. That's probably where she went astray a little bit there. But whatever, she that shows they watch everybody in the show and they decide who they want. That big lummox that won it, what was his name? Avril Lavigne?
Rage, Adam.
Avril Lavigne.
Avril Lavigne won. Adam
Ryan
Levine.
Sex Castles is a announcer. And Avril Lavigne, the silent enigma rage. Yeah. Do you remember what happened to him on Raw? Let me ask you. Let me pick your brain. No one remembers this but me, I bet.
You remember where Vince McMahon hit him?
That was the best thing you do. No, of course you do. He slapped the living. She's like, "Welcome to WWE," and he slaps the living shit out of him. I mean, he slapped him.
Yeah, it's
down.
like, "Welcome to the WWE." Ha 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 ha.
You're fired.
You know, you're fired.
You're hired. You're hired.
We're gonna bust you back on OVW.
Right. He sucked.
FCW, I guess, at the time. Well, he was an indie wrestler. All those guys were indie wrestlers before they came into the show.
And indie wrestlers are kind of, you know, they have their little attitude sometimes. And I don't know. I don't remember anyone else really making it. I remember Steve Austin gawking at some girls kind of I remember liking the show. Chris Jericho, I don't think Chris Jericho is going to be the host. That doesn't sound right. Chris Jericho said he hasn't been contacted about it.
Oh, that's good. There was a rumor going around about it. I will say this, you know, Maven from the original Tough Enough. I did watch the first Tough Enough from years ago, and I was talking about how good it was to see Taz kicking people's ass and Al Snow. Those were great days back in the day.
Right.
And
That was a good
Maven was a good contestant, and he actually did some stuff. I mean, he actually beat The Undertaker on TV, which was it that? I think he was. Maybe he.
Let's calm down now. You know what he did was.
Or did he throw him out of a battle royal?
The Undertaker's not going to job to someone from Tough Enough.
Oh, I'm sorry. What happened was I think Maven threw him out of a battle royal, right?
Correct.
Isn't that what happened?
Right, and then he got beaten to death within an inch of his life.
Yes.
Very Taker-like. Can't put the guy over and just leave. He has to beat him up after. You know, very Taker.
And he did end up, being part of the main event during Survivor Series. You know, and not just Maven. Nydia was there for a while as Jamie Noble's girlfriend. That worked out great because Nydia was great.
She did really good. She was on for a long time.
John Morrison was a featured performer one year. I believe Melina, before she did the Diva Search, was also on there as well.
Mm-hmm.
They all got cut. Nobody won. Daniel Puder won. Of course, his ass got beat to crap. You know, he didn't last very long. And let me think. Trying to think of who else had made it from Tough Enough that I can recall. But anyway.
Matt Capitelli, he did really good.
Matt Capitelli. Yes. Okay. Matt Capitelli. And there's probably some more that I neglect to. Josh Matthews. For Christ's sake. Chris Nowinski. Yes.
Him too.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. And The Miz. Was it The Miz on Tough Enough?
Shitloads of people.
Yeah.
Because Miz was a reality guy.
Yeah.
They wouldn't hire that guy.
Yeah. Now look at him. He's in the Marine 4, which you can pre-order using our Amazon link.
Marine 4. Get it today.
Get it today.
With our link.
While supplies last. Anyway, we're going to talk a lot about some other stuff. It'll be interesting things to see. Really quick, Scott Steiner in Hulk Hogan in an airport. Apparently, Scott Steiner during WrestleMania weekend was at the San Jose airport and approached Hulk Hogan's wife.
He was he nice?
Threatened to kill.
Did he say hello? Did he say hello?
He didn't say hello. He grabbed her arm and then ended up proceeding to cut a promo on her husband, Terry Bollea, saying that he was going to kill him. And that it was bullcrap that he, was involved in Macho Man getting into the Hall of Fame by presenting him, and then come to find out that that may not be the case. So,
that sounds like something he would do. I bet. First of all, Hulk Hogan I'm just going to say this. He is notorious for lying and embellishing. His book's ridiculous. His book says that Andre the Giant weighed like 700 pounds instead of 5. I mean, he always does this. And I bet what happened is Scott Steiner went up to Hulk Hogan's wife in the airport and said, "Hey, when I see your husband, I'm going to kick his fucking ass." I bet that's what happened. Now, look, that is definitely psychotic behavior. Okay? But, I mean, that sounds like something I would do, you know? So I don't blame him for it. That sounds funny to me. I'm tired. I'm sorry. I should not have said that.
No, we're done here. We're done here. Let's wrap up the show. It's been an interesting show.
You should never go up to a woman and say, "I'm going to kill your husband." That is very bad.
That's always a bad move, no matter where you're at.
That's a bad move. I love Scott Steiner.
I have to take a drink.
Yeah, go ahead.
I hope you enjoyed the show tonight. We ran long, as you would think. Please don't forget to check out our Amazon links and keep this show going. Stephen Anthony, you can find him on, where can we find you on the old interwebs?
Saint Stephen Anthony. I'm on ReverbNation.com. Saint Stephen Anthony. Oh, I forgot. I do a blog. That's at Saint Stephen Anthony at blogspot.com. I should do a wrestling blog. I was thinking of doing that, by the way.
You can always do it on our Facebook page, Stephen, or you can do it on my. Or I invited you to be part of the pro wrestling blog, so you can do that if you want. You can.
Really?
You write everything you want on the pro wrestling. Our site is also a blog, if you didn't know.
Really?
And it's also a Blogspot blog, yeah. So I can just add you.
Well, yes. I sure didn't know that.
There you go. You're ready. You can always blog on our blog. So anyway. You can also find me at Jedi Mouseketeer and WWT Group, as well as at WDW After Dark. We do have a promo of the week. You know that I'm a huge Star Wars fan, love Disney, love all that stuff. So what better promo of the week than to end things with John Cena going all Star Wars promo on Chris Jericho from the what was it? August?
Raw a couple of years back.
It was Raw, yes. It was June 25th of 2012. And Chris Jericho had made his return, and the Lima Bean looking John Cena, hustle, loyalty, and respect, which we found out was because of the 3 C's. You know, was it Carano? Is Stephen Carano? I'm trying to remember the name. Mark Carano. Yeah. Mark Carano, who was and Michael Cole and John Cena. So that's what.
Yeah, that was really weird. Weird that he rode with Ultimo Dragon and Tajiri. Total big marks for them. So I was kind of like, wow, that was cool too. Forgot about that. Can you
imagine the van rides with those 6 cats in there, the Basham brothers, them, and then the Japanese wrestlers?
They probably got along pretty good.
And what was it? Tajiri's love for Burger King. Oh my gosh! I want a Whopper. I want Whopper. So good.
You see, I'd heard that he just like played like he didn't speak English, but he did. I'd heard that for a long time.
Yeah.
So he's like, I don't know, and he goes, "Yeah, I'll take a Big Mac and let me get a side of." That's funny if you think about it, because you have to carry that out for months and be just a complete sociopath. You know, he's great.
Well,
one of the best ever. Yoshihiro Tajiri.
Well, if I wasn't on the damn radio, I'd do the same thing. It would be hilarious. It'd be like, oh yes, I like WWE. I like Masahiro Matsumoto, Taka Michinoku. You know what I mean? Like, I do all that shit.
It's really
okay. So we're done. Yeah, we're all done here. We're done here. The Michinoku.
No. I'm just kidding. I'm kidding.
By the way, the springboard stunner that John Cena did on Monday Night Raw, that was good.
It was fine.
Yeah, it's good.
Springboard stunner. That's the only thing that made me think they were taking a shot at him. That was the only thing.
Mm-hmm.
A shot at Austin.
Yeah.
Let me go into a 20-minute long diatribe against why people shouldn't use other people's finishers so quickly. I'm kidding.
Well, that was a modified finisher. Wasn't that bad?
Well, by the way, one more thing, if I may.
Yes.
CM Punk got pissed off about the go to sleep on Twitter. Is that true?
What about it?
CM Punk wrote on Twitter he was mad Hideo Masa. What the fuck's wrong with me?
That
Hideo Itami.
Kenta?
That's what I know. Make up some stupid. How do they come up with that name? How do they come up with that? How do they come up with that?
I don't know.
Who comes up with that name?
Well, apparently,
his
they
name is
put two
Kenta
Japanese.
Kobayashi.
Yeah, Kenta Kobayashi, and
Right.
they put together those names, the Hideo Itami, because of his love for two Japanese wrestlers. So go figure. Anyway,
fine.
Yeah. Okay.
He did that CM Punk's finisher before CM Punk, so CM Punk needs to shut up.
All right. There you go. Once again, thanks for following us. Don't forget to check us out, like and subscribe our YouTube page as well as iTunes. We're out of here, and unlike what AJ Styles will tell you before you take this the Styles Clash, hey kid, don't forget to not tuck your head. I will simply tell you to tuck your damn head. We'll see you guys next week. Don't ban the Styles Clash. Just take the damn bump. He's been doing it for years already.
Nobody ever got hurt before. Come on. Right?
Legitimately or allegedly. Yeah.
Allegedly.
We're done. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Promo of the week.
Of this WWE Universe. You are watching the longest running weekly episodic television show in history. This is Monday Night Raw episode 996, a month away from 1,000. Oh man, what a milestone that's going to be.
Okay. Earlier today, I sent a tweet out to the WWE Universe that simply said #MeepMoop. And then I sent out a more relevant tweet saying that tonight I had a historical announcement. The reason for an announcement so big was because for the past month, the WWE has been turned upside down. It's been like a rotten episode of Star Wars. Allow me to enlighten you. A short time ago, in a WWE universe not so far away, the evil emperor, John Laurinaitis, convinced the world's largest Jedi to join the dark side and become Show Vader. Show Vader then channeled his newfound anger to wage war against the younger, more handsome Jedi, John Cena Walker. The two did battle in an epic fight so big it had to be contained in a 15-foot-high Death Star, with the evil Emperor sitting ringside, but not to be outdone and to make sure the match was fair, the old, decrepit, dust-covered Jedi Yoda McMahon sat next to him. The entire galaxy was involved. Jabba the Funkasaurus, Han Solo Bro Baka the Woo Wookie. Hell, even R2-A-Rye and C-3PO were there. At one point, the battle was so vicious that Show Vader had Cena Walker in a corner and, breathing heavy as he most often does, said, "I am your father." And to be quite honest, that totally weirded me out because I know my dad and my dad's not Show. So I climbed out of the Death Star as quick as I could, using a maneuver that was easier than bagging Womp Rats back at Beggar's Canyon. And when I hit the floor, the ancient, old Jedi Yoda McMahon leaped out of his chair and said to the face of the evil Emperor, "No chance in hell have you." and left the evil Emperor John Laurinaitis to perish. I'm John Laurinaitis, and I'm about to perish. So, with a historic event like that, led me to a historic announcement like this.
Chris Jericho is back. How could he butt in before the historic announcement like this? I think he was sick of the Star Wars references. Chris Jericho's returning to Raw after a European tour with his heavy metal band, Fozzy. It was widely successful. And as you're going to see here, Fozzy was performing God Pounds His Nails. This was at the 2012 Download Festival in Nottingham, England. And we understand Fozzy will tour the United States this summer as part of the Rockstar Energy Tour. And the new album, Sin and Bones, drops August 14th. He sounds great. They're rocking out all right. Look at that crowd.
Cena, what in the hell are you talking about? Huh? Instead of wasting time out here, make your historic announcement, then shut the hell up. Get out of my ring. This is my night tonight.
Hold on. Let's give him his due. Ladies and gentlemen, Chris Jericho is back. I admit I might have got a little carried away, but that's okay. You see, since you've been gone, some things have happened. Big Show is on a tear, and he's often said that now he's moving on to the Money in the Bank ladder match. The reason he's doing that is because he knows that he can climb a ladder, grab the contract, and become the new WWE champion. And once he does that, there is no champion that can stop him. Quite frankly, I believe him. So, I'll get to the chase. The historic announcement is, in order to stop Big Show, for the first time ever, I'm putting myself in the Money in the Bank ladder match.
Oh, so you just think that you're going
I think what? I think I'm just going to let Big Show do what he says he's going to do, climb that ladder, grab that contract, and be the next WWE champion. You and I both know everyone who holds the suitcase has always cashed it in to be the champion. I know that better than anybody. I've had that suitcase cashed in on me more than once. I just figured it's about time I'm on the other side of the fence. You see, it's been about a year since I've been the WWE champion. And come to think of it, I'm not just out to stop Big Show. At Money in the Bank, I'm going to win the whole fudging thing.
Fudging?
It's a PG show. It's the best I could do.
What are you, 9?
Most of our viewers are around that age.
Yeah, well, you know what, Cena? Something that I remember now that I'm back is that your arrogance, your ignorance, it never ceases to amaze me. I mean, it's actually quite mind-boggling. How dare you think you can just waltz into a Money in the Bank ladder match and win it the very first time just because you're John Cena? No. It doesn't work that way. I have survived Money in the Bank ladder matches. As a matter of fact, I invented the Money in the Bank ladder match in 2005. Yeah, that's mine. That's mine. and I've been in 3 Money in the Bank ladder matches.
And by my calculations, you've won none of them. So what's your point?
You're always so smug, aren't you, Cena? You're so funny. Always making jokes and laughing. You know, the Money in the Bank ladder match is not a joke. You know, it's not a joke at all. You see, this is not something you just take lightly and try out for fun. You want to do something for fun? Go in a bouncy house. Do another Star Wars promo. Because that was fun. Yeah, really. Money in the Bank is a serious match, and there's never been another performer in the history of this company that's been in more ladder matches than me. And this is no ordinary match. It's the Money in the Bank ladder match. This is a career ender, Cena. I know what it's like to be in those matches. So instead of worrying about stopping Big Show, maybe you need to worry about stopping me. Because as of right now, I'm entering myself into the Money in the Bank ladder match as well.
Excuse me! Excuse me! Let me make a few things clear for you gentlemen. In 3 weeks, Money in the Bank pay-per-view will take place. I said excuse me! There will be 2 Money in the Bank matches. One for the WWE Championship contract and one for the World Championship contract. And no one can place themselves in these matches just because they declare themselves.
Oh, so let me guess, Vicky, you're going to be the one who just...
interrupt me! I am the general manager!
I'm sorry, Vicky. What are you going to do? Suspend me?
Actually, Chris, I talked to the WWE Board of Directors and they came up with a pretty creative concept. The WWE Championship match will be very exclusive. Only former WWE champions can participate. And these individuals will be Kane, The Big Show, you, Chris Jericho, and John Cena.
Only WWE champions in the Money in the Bank WWE Championship. That is a great idea. Vicky, you know what? You're not so bad as a GM. All you have to do is do what you just did. Take orders from the board of directors and please don't make any decisions to be wrong.
You know what, Cena? I may not be able to determine the Money in the Bank matches, but this is my show tonight. And I will make the main event. Excuse me! So tonight, it's been nearly 2 years. So for the first time ever, you, John Cena, will go one-on-one with Chris Jericho.
You gotta hand it to Vicky. She's had a heck of a night. What a main event. For the first time in 2 years, John Cena versus Chris Jericho here tonight. Well, you know what? I like it. I want to see it.
Thanks for checking out Pro Wrestling Cast. If you've got a question or comment, leave us a voicemail at 615-9339-PWC. That's 615-9339-792. Follow us on Facebook at Pro Wrestling Cast and on Twitter at PWrestlingCast or email us at ProWrestlingCast@gmail.com.
It's still real to me, damn it!
The opinions and ideas presented in these podcasts are those of Pro Wrestling Cast and are for entertainment purposes.
You're awesome. Thank you so much, Mr. Funk, for saying what needed to be said.